Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Trader Merlin Show. It is your Wednesday afternoon? Are we Wednesday? Yes, it's Wednesday afternoon. Hope you had a good day out there. Sorry if my speech is a bit slurred and out of whack today. I had major dental work done today, and my face is still numb. And Novocaine, and just added to the list of stuff that's going on. Tough to talk, and I can't even open my mouth that far. So I'll try to keep this short and sweet for today. As Lisa says, bends the knee or knows how to play the game? Yeah, that's a good question, and I'm pretty sure it's knows how to play the game. As we know, earlier this year, Apple said they're going to do a $500 billion investment in technology and U.S. infrastructure, which, of course, we all thought was going to be very good for tech going forward into 2025, or maybe even longer than that. But Apple has just been languishing, not looking that great. It's been a pretty ugly chart for Apple compared to the others. If you look here, here's Microsoft. Of course, that's been doing fantastic. NVIDIA, we all know, is just the god stock right now. You can look at Google, fantastic, although not as good as NVIDIA or Microsoft. Meta, looking incredible, all-time highs again. You have Tesla. Okay, Tesla of all of them, okay, Tesla pretty weak, especially for the past 4 months, but we know why, just because everyone's trying to figure out what the heck to do with Elon Musk. Then you got Amazon, looking pretty good except for their earnings announcements and the big drop. And then Apple. Apple and Tesla really are the laggards big time in this rally that the Magnificent Seven have been having. And, I think most of us kind of expected it to be a rather bullish year when we saw about all the investment being made by different tech companies, particularly Apple at $500 billion. Now, I don't know if it's been said yet, but the expectations are, and pretty much everybody is saying that Apple is going to do another $100 billion in just U.S. infrastructure. Now, if you look at why that is, obviously they are trying to circumvent these issues going on with India. India now got slapped with another 25% tariff, which means that India is going to be jumping up to about 50% for their tariffs. Well, in looking at the numbers, a large part of Apple's products does come from India. So Apple's like, if we have a 50% tariff on our iPhones coming in from India or the parts and pieces, this is going to be a significant hit to our bottom line. So, hey, why don't we grease the palms of the politicians, particularly the president, the one who's slapping on tariffs, and maybe we can get a little bit of an exemption in there for Apple products or something like that. We'll buy preferential treatment. I'll tell you what, $100 billion goes a long, long way for that. Shame on them for buying Russian oil. Well, we can say that over here doing what we're doing, but in the United States, for India, it's probably logical for them. Like, well, why wouldn't we buy Russia's oil? It's cheap, and granted they... it's a political move that India's got to make for their people and their population, their country as well. Just because we are at odds with Russia doesn't mean the rest of the world is at odds with Russia. Now, granted, most people want to see an end to this war altogether, but India's got to get oil from somewhere. Do you think Tesla's going to break out from... we'll get to that one in just a second. So if we look at Apple's chart here, I guess bottom line we have to ask ourselves is, what does this mean for Apple going forward? I'm sure we have some people in the audience who are holders of Apple shares. I will say I am fairly optimistic. I'm pretty sure that you're going to see Apple continue to move up. I think that Trump will probably, you scratch my back, I'll scratch your back a little bit, and we will start to see this move to the upside here. So you can see, let's move this line up on Apple and kind of get those highs we had for the past month or two, right around 215. So at 215, that breaks out of the sideways channel, or just at least breaks a new high, because we've been stuck here for quite some time. That would be a very optimistic thing, and most likely, I do believe that will happen over the next few days, as Apple may get some preferential treatment in this tariff discussion. Most likely it'll get resolved anyway within a few weeks, but right now it doesn't look that great. Now, some of the other numbers here. I was looking through trying to find as much information as I could on this, and I thought it was interesting. I think one of you mentioned it last time we did the show, that earlier this year when the tariffs were coming down, Apple airlifted 600 tons of iPhones from India to kind of get ahead of those tariffs and jump in. I thought that was kind of an interesting piece. Now they're just doing it by greasing the palms with more money, more money, more money. Now, going forward, I do think that this will buy them some preferential treatment with President Trump. I think that he's going to try to, okay, you're helping me out. You're going to commit $600 billion to the economy. We'll probably we'll probably, make some special concessions for Apple. And I do think that'll probably carry Apple higher here. You notice that we have been making higher lows kind of since April's lows, as everything has. It just hasn't had the same momentum as the other markets. So I'm feeling pretty positive and optimistic here on Apple. So comment here from Happy MFer. Hey Merlin, did your Twitter account get hacked? I got a message from you out of the blue. No, it's probably spelled differently. It's not me. My Twitter account didn't get hacked. I'll check right now, but I have not been hacked. I didn't see anything coming through. No messages from anybody freaking out. So most likely, if you are looking at Trader Merlin, it's probably something spelled differently. You can see mine is Trader Merlin, one word. What happens is people are going TRAADER. It looks just like it. Yeah, they mirror it all the time. And again, I've said this a million times. I'll say it 1,000,001 for tonight. I will never reach out to you guys directly and ask to manage your money, to trade your money, tell you about amazing investments or anything like that. I have literally zero interest in managing your money at all. I'm here to educate, talk markets, and use that information at your leisure and at your risk, but do your own research. But no, I will never contact you direct. Well, like Big Eb or some others that email me directly, I'll reach out to you. But do me a favor, if that ever happens to any of you, if you know it's a scammer, it's not me, just report it right away, please. Because people are literally giving these people money thinking they're giving it to me, and people are sending me emails saying they're angry with me for stealing their money. I am not stealing anybody's money. I will never steal anybody's money. It's not my character, not my style. I would never do that. Okay, back to the talk track. Let's see, actually you got a whole bunch here. Big Eb says 100 billion buys a lot of airlifts, though. That's true. And maybe they keep on doing more airlifts, right? I don't know. We'll see. The first tranche of tariff increase of 25% is supposed to happen, I think, by Friday, by the end of this week. And then the other one is going to be a little bit further on down the road. I actually made notes to myself so I wouldn't mess up those dates. We have 21 days for the second 25% tariff on India, and then Thursday, actually tomorrow, the first tranche goes in. So maybe Apple is going to do some airlifting tonight to get around 25%. Larry says, Merlin, it's stressful enough managing your own portfolios. Yeah, I'll tell you what, Larry, that's one of the things I've had discussions with friends in the past about, hey, Merlin, why don't you become a financial planner? Why don't you become a financial advisor? Because you like this building of wealth, and, why not help other people? Here's why. I got a chance to meet Big Eb. And Big Eb's nice guy, went out had a beer. If I was to manage, let's say, Big Eb's money, or any of your money, I'll use Big Eb as an example here. Even though we're friends, we get along, we're cordial, let's say Big Eb gives me $1 million to invest. We all know that markets go up and down, and I don't win all the time. There's times where I go on losing streaks. There's times where I'm underwater on some positions. That's okay for me because I'm all right with that. But imagine I'm managing Big Eb's money and I'm down 10%. I'm down 10%. Big Eb's going to be a little bit nervous, and he's going to be calling me, and it might put strain on my friendship, my relationship with people. So I want nothing. Thanks, Margaret. I want nothing to do with managing people's money because I think it can ruin relationships very, very quickly. And in a bull market like we've had since 2009, really, everybody's making money. So people are used to that profit central in their portfolio. When these markets roll over and we do get a bear market at some point down the road, I don't want to jeopardize relationships or friends. I'm not managing your money, Big Eb. Do not even think about it. Not going to happen. You're doing fine without you. And it's funny because I have a friend that works for Morgan Stanley, now works for Wells Fargo, and he says, my customers never call me. And I'm like, well, then you're a bad manager because I want to be in contact with my customers, and I want to let them know, hey, here's what we're doing. Here's where you're at. I'd like, if I was ever to do it, I would want my clients to have a great understanding of exactly where they're at. These people are charging a lot of money to manage people's money. It's 1% here, 1% there, 2% there, and all of a sudden you're like, hey, I'm spending 3, 4, 5% per year on my portfolio for you to manage it. You better get paid. Lisa says, not sure everybody is profitable. Market makers making money off of someone. Yep. Yeah. So there you go. I will never trade your money. You guys know that. I would never touch it. I'm never going to contact you or ask you for it. No way. So if it even looks like that, it's a scam. It is not me. 100% not me. All right. So I'm bullish on Apple with all this if they do follow through, because I think they're buying preferential treatment. I mean, this is like lobbyist, but on a whole nother level, because literally doing a press conference with the president, I think it's actually happening right now or here shortly with that president. Oh, mamma mia, that hurts. So let's go look at a couple different earnings announcements here, because I thought this was rather interesting. I did make a trade today on SMCI. I know SMCI got murdered today. SMCI was down 18% today. They missed earnings. You can see here their earnings estimates were 44 cents, call it 45 cents. They came out at 41. And their revenue, okay, so the revenue dropped from 598 billion to 576. So they were 220 million short on revenue. Yet their stock is down almost 20%. So I sold the $40 strikes expiring next Saturday. I actually added that to my table here for you guys. Here's the table. So there's my SMCI. I sold a bunch of puts at the $40 strike price expiring next Friday, not the 8th, but the 15th. I collected 44 cents. So it'll be right around a 1% rate of return for the next 8 days. So that should be okay. You look at the price chart on the screen here. I was actually looking at doing the 44s, but I'm like, no, I feel like there could be more downside movement. Even though I think SMCI is kind of locked in their niche with NVIDIA, there still is definitely the potential for some more downside moves. So I did the $40 strike and got a much lower rate of return, but we have to balance that risk versus reward ratio in our head as often as possible. And for me, I just did not want to go anything too close to current price, because I think it could have another leg down here as the media kind of deciphers it. Not to mention that, but you can notice that it's really was basing pretty much all of May and June right around that $40 mark, or slightly above it. So I feel pretty confident that $40 won't get breached. So that was the new one for me. What else was out there? Lyft. Lyft was down 3.58% of the day, down another 4.65 in the after-hours session. You can see that little blue line. My guess is you'll probably see this close the gap. I'll put a horizontal line where that gap is right there, right around $13. Right now it's at $13.39, so it could very easily get down to that $13 mark tomorrow morning when it opens up and the panic sets in, and we'll probably see a little bit of a bounce there. Now the only one that really interests me on the earnings front was Disney. So Disney had a great chart pattern today. You guys can see we've got a pretty big hammer formation. It is trending down for the past few weeks. Hammer formation. I can add on volume here to show you that as well. We've got, I'm not going to say climactic volume, but it's significantly higher than normal volume there on Disney. And that typically would mean a reversal pattern. So if you look at this chart, look at 116.12. 116.12 was the intraday high for Disney on today's session. Therefore, I feel like if we can gap down or open up down below 116.12 and start to see a little bit of a rally, you could see some nice upside movement. And not only that, but they raised their forecast, they raised their outlook, they raised a lot of different metrics here, but just wasn't as high as analysts had expected. So I do expect to see Disney rally over the next couple days off pretty decent earnings. Coin, you got to be careful with that one. Coinbase. So Coinbase had their earnings a couple weeks back, or a few days ago, excuse me. They were all over the place, right? They were estimated to make $1.24. They came out at $5.12 or $5.14, and their revenue was pretty much unchanged or slightly down. Yet you had a pretty big down drop here in the price of coin. So I was thinking the same thing as well, Steve. I do think that Coinbase will probably have another surge here. I think one thing, if you're long term on Coinbase, right? If you're long term, you have to look at man. If you're long-term on Coinbase, you have to look at these new legislative measures. So the Genius Act, what's the Genius Act going to do? It's going to bring in competition for Coinbase. Not only that, but once you get the Clarity Act in place, that will create further competition for Coinbase. And then you're also going to have other crypto exchange competition. For example, Kraken was trying to go public last year. They may do it this year. If not, it'll happen next year. So now you can have another publicly traded crypto firm that's going to fight with Coinbase for market share. Also, with the Clarity Act and with the Genius Act, it opens the door up for companies like Merrill Lynch, Morgan Stanley, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, JP Morgan Chase to not only issue stable coins on their own, but also to facilitate trading of cryptocurrencies in-house. So while Coinbase I think is the best of the best right now, at least it's the only publicly traded one out there. I think at some point their market share is going to diminish because every financial company that exists in the United States will theoretically be allowed to issue or to custody and sell and create an exchange for cryptocurrencies and digital assets. And I think that down the road, that's going to be significant competition because people like JP Morgan, they talk so much trash about cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin, but it could very easily be that they just say, well, we're going to open up our own exchange here and our customers can trade out of our pool. And all of a sudden that brings a lot of business away from Coinbase. Now, that's down the road, at least a year. I think you got another year at least of Coinbase looking pretty tasty from an upside potential, but competition is right around the corner and it could get very, very severe for Coinbase going forward. Now, remember, they've done a good job of entrenching themselves politically and tying to a lot of politicians. So I'm sure some of the rules will favor Coinbase, but I don't think I've ever seen an industry that had a dominant player like Coinbase, but also changes the regulation and allows anybody else who's a financial institution to compete in that same marketplace. That opens up, and remember, a lot of these major financial firms already have infrastructure to jump into it right away, right? They already facilitate trading. I mean, Charles Schwab could easily say, okay, well, we're going to custody cryptocurrency too, and you know what? We're going to have our own exchange for crypto. They've got a lot of customers, and what's really good about this for you and I as consumers is a lot of, when you have more competition, what it does to prices is start to diminish transaction fees. So my biggest gripe against Coinbase is very high transaction fees. You're talking, if you use the basic platform, you're almost 5% for their transaction fees. If you use their advanced, you are getting down to probably about 1.5%. That's still a lot. But if you start to see more competition, right? Robinhood being competition, Coinbase, Kraken, and all of a sudden JP Morgan and Schwab jump in, you could see these fees drop significantly, which would be great for everyone who's involved with crypto. Louis says, what would happen to Bitcoin if other digital currencies with the same structure of Bitcoin is created? Well, they're already created, Louis. You could download right now the source code for Bitcoin and create a copy of it, change it and call it the Gomez coin, and issue it. People have done it hundreds of times. The problem is it has to catch on. There's many of them out there. Bitcoin already has the interest of institutional investors, of retail investors, of corporations, and of governments. Yeah, there are exact copies of Bitcoin out there. Absolutely exact copies of it. And, Litecoin's a good example. Litecoin is a copy of Bitcoin. It's just multiplied by 4, so it's 4 times as fast, has 4 times as many coins. It's a copy of Bitcoin, and it's actually doing okay, but that's because it was early on. It's an early adopter. You could try to create one today, an exact knockoff of Bitcoin, but you have to get people to use it, right? You have to get people to adopt it, and that's where Bitcoin is already leaps and bounds above anybody else. And there may be other ones that pop up that can compete with that, but I think right now it's Bitcoin is it. It's the king. It's got the market share and everything else. All right. So that was Coinbase. I'm going to go back to the daily here, and I'll run through some of our top 5 or top 8. Moving from the bottom to the top, crude oil. We talked about this yesterday. We said if it breaks down below that little yellow box, I expect there to be some pretty big downside movement. We got it down today, down 1.24% for crude oil, down to 64.35. We had talked about if it broke 64.60, then we're probably going down to this next level here, which is at 63.41. So we got about another 90 cents to go before we dip into that zone. And I do think you'll see that happen probably within the next few days here for crude oil. So that was a fairly, not an easy one to see, but I mean, we were watching it bounce on this level, and I kept saying the more it touches this, the more likely it's going to rip through, and here we go. Now your dollar index down 0.53%. This was not good. I was actually expecting it to kind of hold yesterday and maybe start to rally back up. That would have kept this kind of higher highs, higher lows that we've seen back since early July. Well, right now, that moved down today to 98.236 on the Dixie. That it still keeps the uptrend intact, right? I guess I could do you guys all a visual favor and just draw a line across the bottoms here, and that would be your uptrending bottoms on this one. So if it ends up breaking that one, then we start to get in some trouble for the upward sloping trend line. But this was kind of not a good sign that we dropped down like this today. I actually thought we'd see it bounce up. So 0.53% slide for the Dixie. We'll see what happens if it gets down to that trend line. Your Russell, which was looking so good, is just hesitated, right? Yesterday, Steve says, I want the dollar. I want the dollar down back to 96. Oh, okay. Oh, you're long the British pound. Okay. There's always that ulterior motive there, right, Steve? So Russell, nothing really new to talk about here. It's up or down 0.13%. Gold, right? Gold is actually an interesting picture because if we look at what happens with price action, look at the last 3 candles. Let me turn off this volume at the bottom. Those last 3 candles have very long bottoming tails, and the price has actually been holding higher and higher in each trading day. That usually is a fairly bullish sign. It means that at one point sellers are trying to push it down, but it just gets bought back up, and the fact that it closed near the highs is actually pretty good. It does make me feel optimistic for gold, but remember, we've just been bouncing back and forth. You know, we've got a high price here from July 23rd. That high price is $3,451. You know, right now we're at $3,433, so $17 away from that level. We could probably get there relatively quickly, especially with that 3-day candle formation we have over the past 3 days. So that looks pretty good. Trump's got a purple tie. No orange tie, huh? Your 10-year yield, I don't have anything to say on this one. It was surging today, and then all of a sudden gave it all back, so not that big of a deal. Only at 0.57. Your S&P, nothing to speak of either. I feel like we're just kind of chopping back and forth. It feels like every day we get a green candle, we get a red candle the same size the next day, and vice versa. NASDAQ, similar picture to our S&P, was up 1.26%, predominantly because of the Magnificent Seven. All right, we already looked at that Magnificent Seven. It was fantastic today. I mean, Apple up 5%, Amazon 4%, Tesla 3.6%, Meta 1.1%, everything else, you know, under 1%. Microsoft actually down on the day. But yeah, Magnificent Seven being carried by Apple in the news. And I guess we could look here. I know the press conference is going on right now. I'm curious what might be happening on, let's say, a 1-minute time frame here, just because of what is being said. It doesn't look like any real action here. Sometimes you get, you know, big moves when they're talking about this stuff on TV. So, and lastly, your Victor for today, coming in with a nice little gain of 1.47%, which worked well for me with my MicroStrategy shares today. You had Bitcoin 115,830, but from a technical perspective, really nothing that interesting. The good news is it's holding, right? I had kind of anticipated it dropping all the way back down to the 109 level. I don't want that to happen. I'd like it to keep on moving to the upside, but we shall see how it does over the next couple of days. Now, to update on this one, so these are the 3 option trades I've opened. I modified my dollar cost average to fit the 2 300 share blocks that I purchased. This does include the premium that was claimed on those. So right now for my MicroStrategy, my average price is $393.22, and right now it's at $382. So I'm down $10. That's roughly $6,000 underwater right now for MicroStrategy, but I'm not too concerned about that. I think we'll be fine. This will probably rally up, and I remember I do have the $400 strikes on this one, so I have calls against my position at 400. Let me just type that in so I can have a line there. So that is what I have expiring on Friday. I'd love it if we got to like 390, 395 would be amazing. Gap up over the weekend to 410. I can sell the 425s and just keep on riding this bad boy and have a nice big winner on it. So we shall see. I actually was debating selling some more puts on it because if you look at this MicroStrategy, you know, going all the way back to middle of April, we have not been able to get below that 358. So, you know, I thought about maybe selling some 350s on this one just to, but I don't know if I need to go any bigger than this right now. I mean, it's only a couple $100,000, but I'm gonna hold. I'm gonna hold. The list. Did he say that, John? I could just see it now. You know, this list of countries investing billions and billions of dollars in America. It's just too long to read. This is the biggest list I've ever seen in my life. This list is so huge. No one knows this list like I do. Oh, I could just go on and on. I love him. You can't see the chart? Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, I thought I had the chart up there. My bad. Thank you, Oliver. All right, let me scroll back here just a little bit to see what you guys have been typing in. I've been, you know, my jaw's killing me, but I will do my best. Okay, we already got that question from Luis. And then kind of a different beast, though, having to custody crypto. A lot of institutions might not be familiar with the security risk. I totally agree with you, and that's a good point, Happy. These institutions may not feel comfortable now, but you got to put yourself in the business. Let's say you're Charles Schwab, right? And you don't have any crypto exposure, no crypto trading. And you know that the Genius Act is passed, that the Clarity Act is passed, that we have a national Bitcoin, or a strategic Bitcoin reserve for the government, and we have a strategic crypto portfolio that Trump is building out, and you have legislation across the board that's favoring crypto. So you have two choices if you're a financial firm today, and I'm using Charles Schwab as our example, and I love that you said that question. It's great. I can continue to do business in the way that I am today if I'm Charles Schwab and everything's fine, numbers are great, and ignore completely crypto, which is one of the fastest growing financial market segments, not just for trading crypto, but derivatives products and lending protocols. There's so much money for Charles Schwab to make here. I assure you that right now they're looking around and trying to find who's the best in the industry. Who's the one to poach, to bring over to Schwab and say, hey, we'll give you a good, 7-figure salary to set up our crypto exchanges, right? I can see right now that those people being very in demand at people like JP Morgan and Morgan Stanley and Merrill Lynch, just because no financial firm, in my opinion, will blatantly look at one of the hottest industries in the world and go, no, we don't want anything to do with that. It's just going to fizzle out. I just don't see most financial firms turning a blind eye to it. It's just money and lots of money. So you bring in the infrastructure, you bring in the experts to build out your systems, and I think that they'll do fine. But yeah, right now they don't have it, and maybe there's a little bit of worry, but they'll get there. Market says Citibank, JP Morgan, and HODL doing well. Yeah, well, JP Morgan we know because they're just connected on political high hill. I mean, Jamie Dimon is, JPM. Yeah, this thing's been looking absolutely fantastic. It's great. Schwab going to offer salaries like Meta offering. I didn't see anything about salaries for Meta offering, but I would imagine they're going to pay some pretty pennies to bring in experts in the crypto field, particularly from a custody perspective and storage and security perspective. Absolutely. Just to give you the example, just look at Coinbase, right? This is one-dimensional, and Coinbase has to build their customer base. Schwab already has a monstrous customer base. So if Schwab can do it right, and I don't know why I'm picking on Schwab here. It could be any financial firm, but Schwab has millions of customers. If Schwab can turn that switch on and offer better pricing, people are going to leave Coinbase and go back and just stay at Schwab because they're already there. Let me just real quickly go and see how many customers at Schwab. So Schwab has 37.5 million active brokerage accounts. That's a lot, 37.5. Now let's go look at Coinbase. Oops, sorry, I can show you over here, just so you guys can see. Coinbase just to see. I clicked the wrong one. Sorry, we're not ending the show. I clicked the wrong button, guys. Sorry about that. I guess O is for outro. So when I typed that button, it gave me the outro. We're not ending the show. Coinbase. Oh, wow, it says 100 million worldwide. So that actually would far eclipse Charles Schwab. I stand corrected. But that's worldwide also. So I'd have to dig into that. One a little bit deeper to see exactly what that works like. But I think that Charles Schwab and these other financial firms would make a lot of extra money and increase their bottom lines if they started offering crypto. And again, once the rules change and it's clear, it's safe, it's okay by all the regulators and the SEC and FTC and all that stuff, then they'll do it. Absolutely. Getting back to tweezers, if your first candle is red and the second one is green of equals, it'd be bullish. If the down candle's red and then the next one's a solid green one that erases the whole thing, they look almost identical but just different colors, bullish to the upside. Bullish to the upside. All right, SCH, let's go look at Charles Schwab too. Most financial stocks right now are looking absolutely fantastic. Literally everything. I mean, it's everything's just a beautiful uptrend. Fantastic. All right, let me go into economic calendar and show you some of the stuff there, and then I'm going to wrap this up because my jaw is killing me. And just so you guys know, maybe I should. On the 18th, I'm going back to get the second half of my face done. I only had the first. I only got the right side of my face done today. I'm getting the second half done on the 18th, and I'm not going to do a show the 18th. It's just too tough to do a show when my face feels like this. I can't even feel anything on the side of my face. All the way up to the top of my head. Weird. Damn Novocaine. All right, so let's go to today's action. For Tuesday, all we really had today was the this is Wednesday. That was yesterday, the ISM services. So today was crude oil inventories. Why is it not refreshed here? There we go. I don't know why it didn't refresh. Ice is natural pain reliever. So is whiskey, I heard. I'm going to have to go and, I'll definitely, it's just the Novocaine's got it all numb. It's not, yeah. Yeah, makes no. I'll let you know when we get there, Lisa. I'll let you know when we get to closer to it. I booked the appointment, the follow-up appointment today. So, crude oil inventories. We went from 7.7 million. Expectations were 0.2. We're at -3. I mean, I just don't get it. These numbers are so colossally off. Again, fire whoever's reporting this data and doing these numbers. But that was your really only big piece today. You did have 3 FOMC members, but I didn't follow any of that stuff today. Tomorrow, though, you have some pretty big news. If you're trading the British pound, I know we have we got a GBP guy in here. Was that you, Steve? I think you were talking about the British pound earlier. I think Steve was talking about the British pound. Yeah, Steve Wolf is long British pound. Tomorrow could be an interesting day. They're looking at cut rates. So looking at cut rates from 4.25% down to 4%. Typically, when you're cutting rates, that doesn't do too well for the currency because it's a less attractive yield and people look elsewhere for a carry trade. So let's look at the British pound chart here so we can check that one out. GBP USD. Here's my Forex. Here's your British pound. So you've had this, about a month-long sell-off going on in the British pound. And I like that you're short this one because technically, if you look at the trend here, it's broken the trend, and now it looks like it's making lower lows and lower highs. That's pretty good, but you're going into a pretty significant announcement for the British pound. And, of course, that will be one that I know you're going to be watching that because that's going to have an impact on your trade for sure. That's going to happen at 7 a.m. So bright-eyed and bushy-tailed tomorrow, Steve. Get up before the sun out there in Arizona. That's really your biggest piece for tomorrow. You see a few things for the U.S., but they're not that big. You have non-farm productivity. You have unit labor costs, final wholesale inventories. You have a member of the FOMC Bostic speaking, natural gas storage. I didn't look at UNG today. Let me just real quickly look at UNG. Okay, still drifting lower and lower and lower, but I think we are right near that almost historic, I won't say historic lows, but if we go on a monthly time frame here and look at UNG, let's go monthly. I would say those actually are historic lows. We're right near pretty much all-time lows on UNG. Of course, that's futures. It's a futures derivative. Well, if I go to the natural gas futures product itself, which is written kind of differently, let's go here. Where's my NG? Sorry, guys, if I keep scrolling back and forth. I'm trying to find my natural gas there. I don't know why that... I have my natural gas under metals? Oh, there's natural gas. Okay, so there's your monthly natural gas. We still are a ways away from those lows, and those lows being about 1.5 would be the critical point here, and we're still at 3, so we should be fine. We should be fine there. All right, 32 minutes. I got your economics. Oh, we didn't do an earnings calendar for mañana. There are some names to speak of for tomorrow, so we'll bring those up. 495 companies reporting tomorrow. Eli Lilly is your biggest name. You also have Toyota Motors, Gilead Sciences, ConocoPhillips, Constellation Energy, and I guess Motorola Solutions, Vistra could be a good one. Canadian Natural Resources, but they get smaller. Sempra Energy. I know some people have SRE. Let's see what SRE been doing lately. Oh, still going. Nice, looking great. All right, that's gonna do it for me, everybody. I apologize for the short show, but I was gonna cancel, and I can't do that to you guys. I just can't cancel without letting you know. But we got a 30-minute one in. We're good today. Listen, oh yeah, I did see your email on the Google thing. I'll have to look at that one. Maybe I'll do that for the show for tomorrow, for Tuesday. If you guys have anything you want me to discuss for tomorrow, send them on in. Now, you haven't sent in too much. You got a couple of rogue questions that came in, but if you guys have things you want me to discuss on tomorrow's show, let me know. I have a little more time to trade tomorrow, so hopefully I have some trades put on, addition to the ones I already have going. But this shirt, oh yeah, this is when I was in Ireland. I picked this up at Dublin, little place in Dublin. I had to get a shirt. All right, everybody, that's going to do it for me. Again, if you have any comments, questions, as I slur my words here because of all my Novocaine, you can email me at tradermerlin@gmail.com. That said, have a great day, everybody. I will see you mañana.